Good morning. My name is Kibben Ritberger. I think I'm filling in for somebody today. I don't know who. Might be my brother or my stepfather, but each one of them had doings. So, we have the air conditioner going. I'll try to talk over it. And I tell people this all the time, that in the back they tape this for other people. And I've been told there are other people. So I watch what I say up front here. But sometimes I'll repeat what you say because we don't have the mic system. So you're talking, and the poor people that will watch this either today or next week, they can't hear what you're saying, and that's probably more important than what I'm saying. So I'll repeat what you say sometimes. And it's not because I'm frosting over what you're saying or I'm trying to twist it. It's just I've been asked that it's more rewarding for people that look at it at a later time. Otherwise, they just hear me. I try to look both ways here, okay? So the lesson study is about the crucible, like when you're boiling hot pot of gold or whatever, and you take the junk off, and eventually you get something pure, okay? And what I do with this lesson, I don't know if we're going to make it all the way. It's chronological, Monday through Friday. Whether I make it all the way through, I try to touch on those verses, and I try not to just stand up front and talk about my cat or my dog at home, okay? I guess you guys came to do the lesson, so I do try to focus in on this. I really do. They're on set, and I do chronologically. Sometimes I jump around, but if you don't mind, just if you have it in front of you, if you don't, that's fine, because you can weigh in on, say, the message, the people that wrote this. And right there it says, the week at a glance. I already mentioned the crucible part about that figurative, trying to get to the gold, the real gold. And it's kind of the real gold in all of us. That's what God's trying to do, trying to get to the real gold in all of us. So here it says, the week at a glance. Why do you think God is willing to risk being misunderstood by those he wants to know, by those he wants to know him and love him? How much do you think God is willing to be misunderstood in order to mold you into the image of his son? So what they're trying to... The question being is God's going to put some pressure on all of us to try to get the gold out of us. And it's saying right here that God is going to be misunderstood. I know that we always use the metaphors or analogies of kids, okay? When first of all, when my kids were, I got two girls, and they're easy. There was maybe a couple spankings, and I'm going to tell you right now, I'm a believer in spanking. But the quick of it is this: you don't hit somebody to hurt them. You don't do that, okay? That's not right. I had a friend tell me, he says, yeah, my mom, this guy's I'm 52 now, just turned 52. This guy's 4 years older than me, and I knew his mom. And she'd come over to his place, clean up and everything. And one time we were talking, I said, did your mom ever, discipline? He goes, oh, yeah. And I knew his mom. She kind of talked like this, a real soft voice. Not old lady or nothing, but she was really kind of mellow. Just really, I said, she disciplined? He said, oh, yeah. And I said, well, how? I mean, I want to know how. You know, everybody, when I was a kid, my dad, if he caught us playing in the bathroom in the water, I had a couple brothers, he'd grab you by the back of the head and take you out like this, you know, that short hair, you know, and just out in the hallway. But I asked this friend of mine, so how? Oh, he said, every way. He said, if she could get you by the hair, she'd be kicking at the same time. And I go, no, there's no way. He said, yeah, when she had enough, she had enough. Okay. Me, that discipline, that spank, you don't want to hurt nobody. The thing, well, this is my idea. It's what he was describing. It's when the parent just goes whoosh, and it's raining down on the kid. And I don't believe in hurting. I'm just saying, you know, that spanking is more like wind spankings, and that you're being directed towards your bedroom or something. That's me as a parent. So it was never about hurt, but it was being like, it's all falling in on you right now because you're not listening. The child, okay. But that's just me. We didn't show up to talk about that, but they're talking about God here, saying, well, how much pressure he's going to put on somebody until you pay attention, or until maybe you decide to rise to the occasion. That's the question on Saturday. So I use the metaphor of being a parent, and I don't believe that God hurts people. Never have. No, I don't believe in that. So there's a thing about Job here. We're going to cover that, because a lot of people question when God had that talk with Satan, you consider my friend Job. So back to, I'm asking the question this morning. I don't even have a clock to look at back there. But why does God risk being misunderstood? And he is. He's really, is there any other way though? Is there any other way? Because how many, I've asked people about their grandparents before, and I know different people have different my grandparents were definitely older. My grandpa was married when he was 35, had his first kid in 1943. He was probably 36 years old when he was first. My grandparents was a lot older. And I'll ask other people about their, you know, how they reacted with their grandparents. And you could see my metaphor analogy, older individual, maybe God, you know, affecting us. I asked them about the I said, are your grandparents kind of cookie and milk grandparents? And they go, no. And I said, they're not cookie. He said, I'll ask them growing up. They said, no. And then I do the math. I said, why not? He said, my grandma and grandpa were working. By the time I was in kindergarten, they were holding 2 jobs down, or, you know, they're just describing. They said they had things to do. They weren't retired. He said, when you went over to their place, you know, they had a job to go to, and so they interacted based on what the best they could. And I think my age, you know, when I was in kindergarten, my grandparents were, you know, pushing 70, 75. So anyway, based on what was going on in their lives, they had more time for grandkids, I guess. I call it cookies and milk, grandma and grandpas. Whereas somebody that's a grandpa when they're 50, 55, they're not going to be cookies and milk grandpa. They can't be. Look, I'm 52. I'm not going to be a cookies and milk grandpa. Not for a while. Anyway, but God being misunderstood, though, can God just keep handing out the cookies and milk? Can he be all that? Can we keep coming to church? I like it. Keep coming to church and you hear about those life-changing stories about how God helped. I mean, you hear some good stuff, really positive stuff. When the story is about the time a person really needed God, he showed up in different ways. And I sat up here and did a lesson 3-4 weeks ago about, it was Hebrews, about that verse of entertaining angels unawares. And a lot of times those angels shows up unawares. They're strangers, and it was about you as a person. Hey, ante up here and be hospitable. That was the point of the lesson. But a lot of times those angels unawares, being strangers, they were helpful to the person that was, like, say me, was helping them. That angel unawares they were happy, or they might have gave a heads up. Hey, and the person that was helping was like, oh yeah, and then they never seen that person again. Those are good stories. Those are really good stories. I like to hear lots of those. The real downer story though is you go to Job there. Job lost his whole family. Well, I don't want that's a lot of pressure there. And that's life. I could show up, no end to, I'm not doing that this morning. People have lost loved ones. Job, real story. And it's still happening today. And somebody is supposed to measure, God's looking for somebody to measure, I wouldn't say measure up, but move past that. And maybe it makes him a better person. I don't know. I don't know if that's the test I want. So, but it mentions here in our lesson, well, how do you move on past that? And we'll touch on that. So, well, I'm doing all the talking, guys, but if you came to church this morning and you want to hear some positive stuff, positive's good. Does the story of Job, let me rephrase this. Does the story of Job scare anybody here in this room? Is it a sobering thought to anybody? Or do you think, oh, that just happens to the Job people? Okay. Job was tested. But what strikes me about Job's is, the sickness and health is horrible. To not good. But the loss of the loved ones, that's the sobering part of the Job story. It's one thing to be hurting pretty bad in the hospital, but it's another thing when somebody comes in and says, well, your kids are gone. That's a sobering thought. And, that's a very true story. It happens over and over again. I'm still talking about this question of God risking it all. What I have to ask you, they put the lesson together, but when God said, consider my friend, to Satan, he said, consider my friend Job. Seems like Job was already a good enough guy. How much better did he need to be made? He's brought into this lesson because he's part of the pressure of the crucible thing. How much better did Job have to be? Well, hopefully everybody heard you said, but you're talking about Wednesday, which is fine. I told everybody I don't chronological go through this, but that's Wednesday's part, is that eventually you can share. So what was been said here, I told some people I repeat for the camera because they can't hear you. I don't frost things over. But what was said is that maybe Job could be an example for other people in his community. Maybe he could talk to people. Hey, this happened to me here a year ago. And maybe he could be that person. And I don't know. I'll let you. I'm pacing this out pretty good, but we're going to touch on that about being that person. I don't know if trials and troubles, if I can be that person that could share that much. I'm not saying that's a sad thing. That's kind of a good thing. But if I had to, I'm going to make a joke or whatever, I'd say maybe I'm the guy that had to eat cake without frosting, and I could commiserate. That's sad, okay? But the thing is there might be something in my life that I could look over and go, yeah, that's well, I'm going to cover it to get to Wednesday because I like what you said. You're covering Wednesday is that you could actually talk to other people. Abraham in the crucible. This one has been, I'm sure I've done this when we were doing the Hebrews, but this is Abraham asking to sacrifice his son, okay? And I hope that everybody in the room understands the story, because I'm not gonna gloss over it. But you remember at the end, even Isaac was on board, like, well, Dad, you got to do it. Well, yeah, I'm game. Well, not game, but no, this is sobering things, So it wasn't, don't let's forget. Am I wrong? Isaac knew, didn't he? Maybe not going up that mountain, but eventually he knew. So he's part of the story too. This thing with Abraham, they mentioned that Abraham knew the voice of God. Otherwise, he would have wrote this off as being satanic. And we're all told that. It says when things don't make sense, and someone is talking to you and you know what's wrong, you're just like, this is wrong. Evidently, in this situation, Abraham knew the voice of God. So the story played out. My impression in this story is that I might learn a little bit of something about it, but this was between God and Abraham. Am I right or wrong? You can tell me I'm wrong. But they had a friendship, and they had to do this thing. And I don't know why they had to do it, but they had to do this. Your thoughts. Why did God and Abraham, they were friends. They had to do this, or God asked Abraham to do this, and Abraham did this, and is Abraham better for it once it was done? So go ahead, way back there. I'm going to go there and then here. Go ahead. Testing Abraham's faith. Okay, right here. You testing Abraham's faith. Now, if we back up about Abraham, I can list all the times that he was a little goofy about being down in Egypt, telling that Pharaoh that, what was it, that his wife was his sister or something. So maybe some tests and some faith needed to happen. Okay, go ahead. Okay. The trust issue about having a son at his age. His wife would have a son at her age. All right, so yes. Okay. Faith, what was said was faith and trust. Right until God comes again. Yes. Okay. Trust is a component of, yeah. Okay, trust and belief in action is faith. And again, I say it, hope you know, they're filming, so, yeah. So anyway, I do that for the effect of people that watch. Okay. Here at the bottom, it says, how do you know the voice of God? How do you know when God is talking to you? What are the ways he communicates his will to you? I'm not a comedian up front here, okay? I hope you know I'm not up front being a funny guy, because, this is serious stuff and such. But I did watch a comedy. Doesn't matter what it is. But this thing was, excuse me, done in the 1970s. But it was about the effect that this guy came to work, and he felt that during the night that something was said. In the comedy you couldn't hear, but he kind of raised up and he looked around and he thought he heard a voice. And he went to work and he told his coworkers that there was a voice. And they kind of thought he was being goofy. And I don't remember the episode. They said, so what did it say? And he said, well, it said something, you got to be you, or you got to find out you, or something. He said, it didn't say much. And anyway, the comedy is eventually they thought he was weird, and everybody thought he was getting a little goofy, so they put distance. And eventually his boss told him, said, I don't know. But this is just a comedy. But it got serious there. He said, I don't know. But he said, if I think God wants to talk to somebody, it ain't a bad thing. So yeah, that kind of ended it there because the comedy and everything was, well, where do you move on from there? This person could be marked as being weird, but and this person was really afraid because this person, the people that wrote the story, it's the script, this person was afraid, well, where do I go from here? And so eventually his boss said, well, I think it's a good thing if God talks to a person. He said, so take it as that. So here's the question. I didn't tell you a lot about the comedy there, but I just was mentioning it. How do you know the voice of God? If you have a friendship with God, if he's speaking to you or somebody else. And I'm not talking, I hope you know, I'm not talking about hearing. So I'm talking about when all of a sudden you're impressed to do something. And it could be in the darndest ways. It might not be just you. It could be an action or a moment that you feel that you need to do something, go somewhere or help somebody. Or, something you viewed as a scam before, now you don't see it as a scam. You think, the person that you were, all of a sudden, wait a second, I've been burned here before, but yet you're like impressed. Well, no, I better do this. Those kind of things I'm talking about. Not just hearing something from the clouds, but what do you do when all of a sudden you're impressed that, well, no, I have to do this. So, and again, like I said, when you've been burnt before, and but yeah, you're wondering, well, why am I being impressed to do this? And then make it worse, somebody comes up to you and tells you, don't do that. You've been burned before. Don't do that. But yeah, no, I got to do those things. So how do you know, though? Yeah, you said when you have a friendship, that was what's said. I'm sorry, I was looking over here. Go ahead. Yes. What was said was it needs to agree with the Bible. It's not from God. And I agree that. I do. I really do believe that if it gets too wild and crazy, you're going to look at the Bible and say, no, that doesn't work. That doesn't work. But those things, I'm not trying to split hairs, but there's going to be those times when it's not that people are going to look over and they're not even going to know that something's going on in your life because you could do it, nobody knows, or you don't do it, nobody knows, but it means everything to you. It means everything, especially when you look back and go, like I said, I bring this up again, been burnt before, but all of a sudden something impresses you to, no, I need to do something today. Or something like that, and so I use that as a situation. Not that somehow you're asked to do something very evil, like Abraham sacrificing his son. Not one of those things, but sometime you're motivated to make a call or talk to somebody, and you just tell yourself, I'm going to do this, but I don't want to. But there's some momentum there, keeps you going. And so, but I'm asking you, what are the ways he communicates his will to you? Now, you said being a friend, but we have to touch on that. It's there. How does he communicate? I don't first person a lot of people, but Elaine here, I know Elaine, but if I present a story, what's the right thing, what's the wrong thing? And Elaine tells me, that's the right thing, Gibbon. Well, there's some communication. I'm at least listening. She bases a lot of views on Bible. So what are the ways he communicates his will to you? That could be one. Go ahead. Okay. You put yourself as a person of what would Jesus do, and you watch your actions with that, like he would be in the room. Go ahead. The slightest whisper of Jesus would move our souls. Okay. Aaron Beck, I told a story 2 weeks ago, similar to what you're talking about, sharing a message. And I was thinking this before you got to the end. I didn't know how that story was going to end. But it says, what are the ways he communicates his will to you? I mentioned a story about here in western South Dakota, a pastor that had to go to the church one morning and somebody was waiting outside, and it turned out, you remember the story, Aaron? Okay. And I won't go through but it turned out something tragic had happened, and this man was in his 40s. I think he was about, to give you an understanding of the story. But this person needed to talk to somebody immediately. Okay, what are the ways he communicates his will to you? And I'm just presenting this morning, kind of similar to that missionary story, is that what happens when you come face to face with somebody that wants information, biblically, Christianity. They don't show up because they want stock-eyed in options, what to buy, to invest their money. But somebody comes in front of you, circumstances, and they want to know, okay? Is God talking to you right then? Did I hear it could be? Yeah, so I'm putting that up is that I'm going to say in my lifetime, maybe I never heard God, but in my lifetime there's been once or twice when all of a sudden somebody wanted information. They wanted it. How's this work? Christianity or church, how's this work? And I think that anybody that's been in that situation would think that God is telling you, all right, now's the time. So that's one way he can communicate. Go ahead. Okay, well, it says God gives you those words. Okay, so I'm really trying to answer this question. I'm glad you said something, but I think that's the way God tries to communicate. And what was said, sometimes God puts those words. And hasn't happened maybe once or twice, but it's a sobering thought when somebody, and so I gave that story Aaron had heard, and that pastor had ante up to what this person had come, this person was a stranger to him, somebody that lived in that town, and this person wanted information. So along the lines, I'm just jumping around here, got like 20 minutes, but along the lines, the young lady up front was talking about understanding people, or once you go through your own trials, then you're able to understand the next person. Okay, that was mentioned earlier, and that's kind of on Wednesday. To what extent might suffering be a call to ministry? I found that. To what extent might suffering be a call to ministry? I wanted to say that I brought up this story about this pastor that met this person in the parking lot one morning, and I'm not going to do the whole story, but this person had been drinking, and this pastor said, something tragic had happened. There was a death. This person hadn't caused it, but this pastor, with regards to understanding, I don't know this pastor real well, but when he looked at the man, he asked him the question, have you been drinking? And this man said, yes. And I was wondering, as I unfold the story, what this pastor's experiences were, because your experiences tend to be the way you understand people, okay? And so the stranger said, yes. And then he said, this is what has happened to me. Well, at first he said, you don't understand. Yeah, I've been drinking, but that's not it. That's what the person said. You see that I've been drinking, but that's not it. You said, this person said, you're evaluating me by, you asked me that question, but that's not it. So then he told a story about this death and this tragic situation. And the pastor said this, part of his understanding. He said, is it helping? And that's the part of the story that I always took away from it. Is it helping? And this person said, no. Okay? Now, back to this. I've never heard that before. I've never heard anybody look down, in situations, say, browbeat somebody. Well, you shouldn't do that, really. No, nobody's ever done that. But I've never heard somebody said, is it helping? And the person said, no. Of course, that's why they're in the parking lot of church. All right, so I'm on this lesson. This young lady up front said about experiences that you can go up. Mention, we talked about Job, that Job may have been able to help people in his own community. Talk to him. Yeah, I lost my kids here a year ago. Some of you, I repeat myself, some have walked in. There's only one question right here on this part of the lesson. To what extent might suffering be a call to ministry? How could we become more alert to this possibility? I just mentioned this story about this pastor. I don't know his experiences or where he comes from. But yet he really knew how to ask a question. He did. I mean, his experiences or wherever he came from, this man today is probably 79, 80 years old. But he asked that question, that person, is it helping? And that's a lot right there, because that means next statement is, what are we going to do to help? What can we do? Okay? So back to the experiences. I guess to what extent might suffering be a call to ministry? I don't know how much suffering a person wants to do before you share or go down that road, but I would hope that in Job's case, the suffering did pass. And, I don't know if I'm not very good up front, if he remarried, got another family, good things were happening. I always felt about the story of Job that good things were up ahead, rainbows. So, it says at the bottom, what can you learn from Paul that can help you keep from falling into self-pity amid your own struggles? It's nice to think you can help people once you learn something. So I'm going to, to be safe here, and I can do this, all right? And I got 20 minutes left. I shared my experiences. I don't have a whole lot. There was one time a person asked me, what goes on in church? Because they'd never been to church. And they were dating a girl that had gone to church, and she talked about potlucks. And he asked me, he said, so when you go to church, do they always have food at the end? No. Well, what do you do? Does somebody talk up front? And I said, all right, this is the way church works. Okay, this is the way these churches work, and these churches work this way, and this is what you would... The guy had never been to church. Never. And I tried to present... I didn't start talking about the Bible, but tried to point out some of those situations. I tried to help. Okay, that wasn't a struggle or a suffering or whatever, so that's not maybe an accurate suffering that I could actually help. So I'm not bringing up the fact that I went to church as being a bad thing that I could help somebody through it. Okay, that's not the situation. But to play this safe, as I said earlier, I'm going to look around. Let me be safe. Just a quick story. Your sufferings, Elaine, just one thing that maybe in your past that you think that you might be able to say some positive reinforcement to somebody because of your past experiences. Some, hey, it'll get better or something. Something, anything on top of your mind right now? Anything? That you could say some encouragement because of your past experiences to somebody? Losses. Okay, what was said was losses. And you could give some positive, not that you have to say, but you could come in at that level and say, there is going to be a ray of sunlight. Got it. Okay. Vaughn, I'm going to pick on you. Anything that you could say in your past life that you could give somebody some positive reinforcement, a ray of sunlight on, like the way Lane said, subject this in the box. Say, if you could hear that voice, if you listen to that voice, it can save your life. So you're saying that voice was something that was positive, something like you need to make a life change. Okay. What was said is that one time in his life, when he lived in the Bahamas, heard a voice, traffic, and he decided to listen and not pass this car, and this car got in a wreck. Okay? I'm moving around. What was said here? Why don't you repeat yourself but before people come in? You said you felt that you could actually talk to people about infertility as you worked through and you learned, and you're saying today you could actually talk to somebody, say, yeah. Okay, what's alone? Yeah, they struggle alone. Okay. I am going to go, maybe I got 10, 20 minutes left, but I'm going to just pick somebody over here. You know, these things aren't like share your heart kind of moments or nothing. It's just something you could help somebody else. Gabriel. Yes, Gabriel. Something, your past, you've had some experiences that, you could put it in this box and say, yeah, I could give you a ray of sunlight on how to deal with that. How to... Yes, you could give somebody advice on how to work through that debt and get to be debt free. Good, I like that. I do. I'm a money person. I like that. Yes, I didn't know that about you, Gabriel. I like that. That's crippling. I mean, you can list in America today, in our society. No, I'm just rambling, but that they say here in the last 8, 10 years, opiates. They said that's a horrible, horrible system here in America today. But that debt-free thing, I'm going to put that right up there because that hangs over your head. Thank you. I'm going to get back to my lesson. We're about, I think I stop at, here in 10 minutes. I'm going to jump around just a little bit. Now, on Thursday, we're still on Wednesday. You mind, I'm going to read, I haven't read any verses. I'm kind of mumbling here, but I'm on Wednesday. And 2 Corinthians 1:4 says, for who comforts us in all our tribulations, that we may be able to comfort those who are in any trouble with the comfort with which we ourselves are comforted by God. This is exactly what I've been trying to say, is who comforts us in all our tribulations, that we may be able to comfort those who are in any trouble with the comfort with which we ourselves are comforted by God. Charles, you're you sit there and listen to all my wranglings. And I'm, given the fact that we had 10 minutes still here, did you hear what Gabriel said, that he's able to offer advice on debt? And maybe Lane said losses, okay? Is there anything that you could tell somebody, hey, I could give you a heads up or a ray of sunlight because that'll pass. That'll work. Nothing? That's fine. I said, myself, I didn't have any. I was searching there trying to mention something. That's fine. Aaron. Addictions. Okay. You could give somebody some advice, ray of sunlight, it'll be better. Okay, what was mentioned? An acquaintance that used to smoke, you're short on money, and said, why don't you change? And he quit smoking. And then he did financially be ahead. Okay? These are all good. Hey, I wish that you got me thinking here. I want to jump in and say, yeah, I suffer not really. I don't. Hey, you smile. You don't have to. Is there anything you'd put in the box? All right. It's fine. Go ahead. Again, I phrase it for the camera that your experiences that you might be able to say on this topic, I could give somebody a ray of sunlight. Miscommunications in family. Fix that. Miscommunications within family. The trust that God will smooth that out. Hey, on that subject, is it God that smooths it out, or does time heal all wounds? I'm being real deep now. Both? Both. I never, yeah. I get to thinking about that, but you know that time thing? That's the truth, isn't it? Time, I don't know if God invented that or what. Or if, as you said it, time... But okay, what was said is time does not always heal all wounds. But you just try, in those situations, you said God smooths it out? Trust that God will smooth that out. Family miscommunications. Okay. That's very real. As you get older and you get more family, yeah, that's, I went to a funeral. My story is no different than your guys' story. And I'm getting old enough to know why everybody's sitting where they're sitting. Okay? Okay? That's the quick of it, all right? I'm old enough to know when I went into... I come from a family that all immigrated from Europe, Germany, actually, in about 1904, okay? And without going... Yeah, and they pretty much all settled here. Yeah, they did. They settled all in western South Dakota. My lineage, my line, okay? And as a young person, I went to the family reunions back in the 1970s when I was a little kid, and I knew the people that actually came over on the boat. They were older, and so it's grown. And back in those days, in 1975, which is those days, it was easy for people to throw horseshoes. But there's been a lot of kids, a lot of marriages, some divorces, some things and this and that. Now you go to funerals, and again, I make that why people sit where they sit. And exactly what you're saying. And on that note, though, I've seen people that move past that, though, that have bridged that gap and just said, just let it go. In fact, my wife's a nurse. She met an extended family member, and she had asked my wife, and we've been married 17 years, and I got so much family. I mean, really, you guys all been married. How many family reunions do you want to go to, your spouse? You know, your own, maybe. Well, yeah, well, yours? What are you talking about? Do you even know those people? Anyway, thing is so fortunately, my wife had to do a bunch of these. I'll say, well, I'm related to that person, whatever. But anyway, she was a nurse, and she met this lady, says, oh, you're Kibben's wife. Well, there's going to be a family reunion up north, maybe Newell or something. This was 4 or 5 years ago. And are you coming? And she said, Kibben usually don't go to those, some, but not those. And this lady said, who's my relation, said this. She said, oh, I married into a Saudi family. They all fight like cats and dogs, but you just get past that. Just go. You just go to anything, you move past that. This lady 4 or 5 years ago was probably 62, 65 years old. But along that lines, I keep remembering what she said. She was telling me, you just move past that. If there's something going on, you just go. So anyway, that's very real, that what you're talking, miscommunication, family, what you're talking about. I feel those, I can't recap everybody, but those are very real sufferings. And I'm on this lesson. I'm mentioning something somebody told my wife, how you move past it. She said, you just go. You're a very upbeat person. Just let it go. You just go to those things. Don't even think about it. And she said, I've done a lot of that too. And I just go. So, guys, I'm going to end the lesson on a positive note there, okay? And I'm supposed to quit at 40 or 45, and I did try to end it on a positive note. And I'm going to mention, just because I can talk, that I'm up front here, I've seen people that had their Vacation Bible School t-shirts on, and maybe we have some guests today. hey, there's about 20 minutes to use the bathroom, and they start singing and everything, but I can stand up front and say, what's behind me is what this church has been doing for Vacation Bible School. And Roy sits in front of me right there with his T-shirt on. And, yeah, they do a lot for the community and a lot of good things. And, again, people that are visitors, you'll see those green T-shirts. And that was a promotion, I guess is the way I see it. And so I think they're going to touch on that today, that what went on this last week. It turned out that I told you I had 2 daughters that helped. And so I'm glad that I came to church today, because they kept telling me its theme is based on Jasper Mine type atmosphere. And you look around, they really captured the theme, didn't they? Yeah, looks pretty good. It's outdoor, right down to the tires. You know, I don't think there's any rattlesnakes in those, but anyway, it really part of the what do you call it? There's a big word for the ambiance. Yeah, I heard that. Ambiance? Yeah. It kind of gives you... So that's what... I think they're going to touch on that today. I just thought I'd say something for the visitors, in case you wonder what kind of program this is. But all this last week was Vacation Bible School. So I'm going to say a prayer. And then again, somebody else runs this show, not me. So we bow our heads. Dear Jesus, thank you for our lesson study. And please go with us during our work weeks or our vacation time. In your name, amen.